Welcome to our manual invoice creation troubleshooting session. So we'll be reviewing just a little bit about the invoice creation process and also discussing some of the troubleshooting issues that may be asked of our Collaborati support team. So in order to create an invoice, a matter must be assigned to the client. At least one timekeeper must be authorized. It should be noted that once you're creating the invoice, that the fields are auto-populated when you create the line items after your first line is created. And the invoice must have at least one line item to be submitted to the client. Now, there are some other requirements that may be in there by your client's specific requirements. However, we won't be addressing those all of those in this session today. Mainly, we're just trying to troubleshoot the actual creation process. So in Collaborati, when you go to invoices, actually this is not the right one. No, I'll have to log in later. We won't be reviewing Collaborati right now. So let's go ahead and look at a few cases. So the first case, actually let's look at this article here. It's right here. So we have several solutions in Collaborati on how to create a manual invoice. Often if it's the first time that a firm or a vendor is creating an invoice, they want to maybe begin familiarizing themselves with the client's billing codes. So we do have some information about how to review that in here. And then you can start creating your invoice. You'll enter the invoice period. Most clients actually, you'll enter the invoice number. Most clients require the invoice period to be entered, and so you'll put the number and the invoice date, your client's name in the bill invoice too. All of these fields in black, of course, are required fields, and then you'll put a comment in the description here. And then you'll click the next button and go to the line item entries, where you'll enter the matter, the item type, some other fields such as the date, a rate, and hours. And then a description is available there. You can click the add item button. Here's what your fee line would look like. And there you can create expenses as well. Here's the fee and expense together. You can include taxes and discounts. You can add attachments, and then you will have created your invoice. All right, so there's an overview. And so let's get started with some cases. So one case that we do have that's still a problem is occasionally we'll have vendors outside the US who say, my invoice is multiplying certain fields. I enter 10 and it enters 1,000, or I enter 1,000 and it enters 10. So what is going on here? So let's take a look at one of those cases. So this is kind of an old case. We're just going to review the email here. I have an example. The total of my fees is $340, and the hours I only have are 0.8 minutes. So the line item total is $272. When I write it in the system, it writes fees 340,000, hours 1, total 272,000. I don't understand why it don't respect the format I started with. I need support as soon as possible. So yes, this is a terrible situation. However, there's an easy workaround. If the vendor reaches out to us, then there is an easy workaround. If they don't reach out to us, then there is not an easy workaround. Then they just get frustrated. So basically, we want to explain that we have a locale browser problem and that they should be able to make this fix here. Let's see if I can find that article. No. Okay, I don't have it. Oh, here it is. No, that's not it. Sorry. That's an invoice rejection. Here it is, the last one. Okay, so here it is. It's the locale issue. My invoice is multiplying certain fields. What do I do? So basically, you ask them to log in to Collaborati, click on Preferences, then change the locale to show English United States. Do not use browser locale. Then save. Then they may need to log out and log in again for the setting to take effect. And it might be recommended that they also clear their cache and browsing history. So we have steps below regarding that. Then they should go and create the invoice and see if it's still working improperly. So once we provided those steps, Claudia said it was working correctly. All right, so locale browser solution resolved the issue. All right, let's take a look at another ticket. All right, so this one is also an old ticket. Hi Martins, I've sent the budget back again with a request for you to revise it. I've also added Collaborati support to this thread to help you submit your budget so it does not get truncated when you submit it. So if the numbers are getting truncated or multiplied, then this might be the issue, especially if they're a law firm that's outside the U.S. All right. All right. Hi, Courtney. I don't know how I managed to do this, but it happened again. Budget for matter is European 121 instead of European 1,200. All right. So this is on the budget. So it is possible that this would happen on budgets, on rates, or on invoices. Again, the locale was the issue. Explained how to change the locale browser and clear the cache. Vendor said the workaround assisted him closing the ticket. All right, so there's a couple of cases that we've covered. And we still get inquiries about the locale. It works for some vendors and it doesn't work for other vendors, and it could also be that maybe all the vendors it's working for have their locale fixed in the system. All right, so moving on. Invoices are created using the Create Invoices page. So let's take a look at that case. All right. When I was entering the matter for Calcium, it kept kicking me over to Hill, and I kept changing it back to Calcium. I think there's a problem with your system. I've already put my time from Mountain to Central to get the dates right. Is there another glitch going on now? When using the Create Invoice option when entering the line items, after you enter the first line, we notice that the following fields will automatically populate with the information from the last line entered. Matter, item type, timekeeper, date, fee, expense, activity, description. The rate, hours, and discount seem to reset. Are you saying that the matter does not automatically populate with the information from the last line entered? Also, which browser are you using? Can we arrange a WebEx? And then follow up. And did you have any more questions? And I think that fixed her issue. So let me see if I can find Collaborati. Okay, just pause it here. All right, we're back. And so the vendor seemed to be confused because when she was creating an invoice, when she was entering the matter, she was upset because it was reverting back to the same information. See how the fields are auto-populating here? We'll make another line item entry. And you'll see how the line item fields revert back to the previous information. So we think that might have been what she was upset about, that it kept reverting back and she didn't want it to. So, all right, moving on. Okay, so the next issue we have is here, this person had a question about the line items when creating the invoice manually. Actually, this looks like multiple issues here, so this is a good candidate here. All right, Ray from Trucker Huss, which is the name of the vendor, does not have a create invoice option in his Collaborati. Screenshot below. Any idea what is going on here? There's no picture here. There we go. So this is an old version of Collaborati, so you can see the sub-tab there. It has invoices in the top, and then it's got track invoices, upload invoices, and history. But the create invoice option is gone. So you can see over here that I have 4 options. I've checked the settings for this firm. Create invoices in Collaborati was not checked. So you can check the settings. I have checked the settings, so the firm should be able to use the create invoice tab now. Okay, so basically he had it unchecked right here. In order for the settings to take effect, you do need to log out and log back in. So just so you know, if I saved that, then it would disappear the next time I logged in. So the firm should have the create invoices now. Ray, this should be fixed. Try to submit your accrual. Good morning. Well, the Create Invoice tab is there. I went in to post the accrual, and on the Bill Invoice to space drop-down list, NetApp does not appear. Any thoughts as to why? All right, so they can see Cisco, Chevron, and Southern California. All right, it looks like there's a finance hold, which our finance department handles. You can contact them at ebilling@metrotech.com. It looks like they had a finance hold for NetApp. So often I'll just copy ebilling@metrotech.com and ask them to assist the person, and then they respond back and help them. All right, so it looks like that was resolved, and now it looks like the firm is showing as client vendor status of pending vendor setup. Let's see. Not quite sure what happened there. So if you're logged into Collaborati, you can check if there's a finance hold. You would have to actually be logged in as a MetroTech admin here. That can cause the invoices to show as blocked from submitting. So right here, it looks like these two clients have a finance hold. So you have to log in as a MetroTech admin in order to see that. And you can also log in and see if a vendor has completed setup by checking to see if their status over here, what it shows up as. The accrual has been posted. Thanks for your help. All right. So it looks like several things were going on there, and likely the finance hold may have been a fake crisis there, because of their pending vendor setup. They probably had not had an invoice yet from MetroTech. All right. So he did have a few things going on, and we were able to resolve those, and then he was able to submit his invoice. All right. So there is a setting. The support leads international fields for invoice creation that will allow user to enter additional information at the time they create the invoice. Let's take a look at that case. All right. I've been trying to send my first invoice to Syngenta. However, every time I send the invoice, it appears the message highlighted in the attached file. Could you help fix this problem? We found that the setting to view international fields is disabled for your firm, so we would recommend you enable the setting to view the international fields in the header section of the Create Invoice and add the PO number, and then you can resubmit your invoice. Please follow these steps. to enable this setting. We also have an article about it here. So there's the setting. You do have to log out and log back in. I think that's part of the instructions. Yes, log out and log in to enable the new setting. And then you can see additional fields like the PO number, the invoice currency. You can enter in different client name. And then it shows up on your invoice. If you don't fill those fields in, then it will just default to the client's information. But mainly, this person wanted to use the PO number for their client Syngenta. Additionally, you can also change the invoice currency on this field. All right, and then we close down. Okay, an invoice must have at least one line item to be submitted. So if you create the invoice and you don't enter a line item, you only fill in the header and then save it, you're not able to submit the invoice. Your invoice will have the status ready to submit, but it won't be ready to submit. All right, so this has happened just a few times and it's quite frustrating because we can't see what the line items look like, so it's best to ask for more information or a PDF of the invoice from the system. All right, a person new to e-billing may want to review the billing codes before creating their first invoice. All right, so it looks like their invoice was rejected originally by a rule in Team Connect system. The invoice was rejected for bill is not an authorized UTBMS code. It's BILL. All right, so we suggested that they review the list of authorized codes by clicking on clients, their client's name, clicking on the codes, and then choosing a different code instead of bill. Then we followed up. All right, and then finally here, we do actually have a invoice creation guide for Pfizer vendors, and we've been able to put that onto MindTouch. So in MindTouch, if you click on the client-specific solutions, you'll see that there is one for Pfizer. And this has some tips regarding the current codes and the currencies. So we got so many questions and so many invoice rejections that we put these guidelines together for vendors from Pfizer. So for example, make a note of the VAT tax code that Pfizer uses, which is the E125. It's an expense code. And then you enter the country in the description field. And then if you want to specify the invoice currency, they could use the Support Leads International fields. And then when they create your invoice, they can make sure that the invoice period must only cover 1 month, or the invoice is automatically rejected. And then the line item entries, make sure you don't use item type total fees or check the taxable item box, or your invoice may be automatically rejected. Don't choose the item type total expenses, or your invoice may be automatically rejected. Don't enter any information in the tax percent box or your invoice may be automatically rejected. Attachments. And then there's your final invoice. All right. So we do get that question a few times, a good amount, but not that frequent, but we did for a while. Let's see what this case is about. Dear Pfizer and Collaboration Support Team, please advise for my query below how to have a task code timekeeper ID. We have several flat fee invoices to be submitted. So I asked her to review the list of task codes. Please review the attached documentation for information and tips on creating your invoice for Pfizer. Sent a PDF. We'll have another session, I believe, on invoice rejections. We do have quite a bit of content now inside our MindTouch folder about invoices. Let me just close some of these out. So we have quite a few topics here on invoice related topics. Many of them are for invoice rejections. So if you look up the word rejection on this page, you'll see a bunch of invoice rejections. All right. And we also have the client-specific guidelines, and those have some rejection information too. We have some information that's hidden in our internal area. Oh, this is another good one. This is an optimistic lock, but that is a rejection. And oh, I also wanted to show we have the a new process. This is one of the client-specific ones. This is another one for invoice that are rejected and then approved. So optimistic lock, if the invoice is rejected with something similar to this, then we would just suggest that it looks like an optimistic lock and they need to resubmit. And we have our new billing process. So this just is an overview picture of what it looks like for the invoice process. First, the client creates the matter, Collaborati shows the matter, then the invoice is created by your firm, the firm creates the invoice, then Collaborati shows basic validations, the invoice is submitted, and then the invoice is audited by the client's rules. The invoice may be rejected if an audit rule is triggered, or it would go into pending client approval if the client, if it didn't trigger one of the audit rules. And then at that point, the client can approve or reject the invoice. And the invoice status can be tracked in Collaborati. So that concludes our session on manual invoice troubleshooting. Thanks.